Welcome back to the channel. Newcomers, go ahead and push that red subscribe button and join the family. As you can see, we're about to cook something. We're going to make an impossible burger meatloaf. Okay, as you can see, we're going to use some of that plant-based burger by Impossible. Green pepper, onion, pecan halves, mushrooms, ground black pepper. We're using our Tony's no salt combination seasoning, garlic, and smoked paprika. And we're going to get right into this. We're going to start off by going ahead and sauteing these mushrooms. So we're going to get the package open and get them into our pan. I'll go ahead and add some oil, just about a tablespoon or so, or it doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to get it started. Okay, and we're going to turn that on and let that, we'll let that get hot. We're going to start putting these mushrooms in there. Now, you can cut your mushrooms up or not. It's just a preference. It's up to you whether you want to cut them up or not, okay? I'm going to cut them up somewhat and then get them in there once that pan gets hot. Okay, I've decided I want to cut my mushrooms quite little. I want them to be a part of the meat, you know. So I'm going to get them as small as I can get them so they can kind of disappear into the loaf, okay? So I'm going to try to get these very, very small. Okay. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to do that today with all of my vegetables that I have. I want them to kind of disappear into the meat, okay? So I'm just going to work on this a while and get these as small as I can and come back and be ready to put these in the pan, okay? Okay, that's at least 2 cups of finely chopped mushrooms. We've got our green pepper here, and we're going to start working on getting it finely chopped, and our onions. And then we'll come back when we're ready to put all this in. All right, that oil's hot in that pan, and we're going to put our vegetables that's going inside of our loaf. So go ahead and put them in here. Okay, we're just going to saute these around a little bit before we put them in our loaf. Mushrooms have a lot of water to them, and I don't want the loaf to really have a lot of water. So I'm kind of trying to cook the mushrooms just a little bit so it does beef up the texture, but without the water. Now this is about 2 cups of mushrooms. If you think you're going to need more because we're sauteing them, normally when I make a loaf, I don't cook any of the vegetables before. But with this plant-based burger meat, seems like you have to do a few extra steps to make it where I want it to be. And I just want to take a little bit of that water off of those mushrooms. At this point, when you see it cooking down, if you think you need a little bit more mushrooms, depending on how much of the plant-based burger you're using, you can go ahead and do it. But you want to add them at this point. Okay? And this is where you're going to add them in. I think I added another 1.5 cups or so. So we'll go with at least 3 cups of mushrooms. So that would be equivalent to every pack of the plant-based meat you use, you're going to use at least 1 cup of mushrooms. And like I said, that's just to beef it up. But we do want to saute this because we want to get that water out because we want our meatloaf to stick together really well. And if I didn't mention, we're going to use the egg replacer, equivalent to 2 eggs in this. I'll show you the kind. We're just going to use this kind right here. We're going to use that equivalent to 2 eggs, and that's just to help that meatloaf stick together. Okay, and this is how you want it Once you see all that water, all that smoke there, that's that water come up off of there. Once that calms down, then you know you've gotten most of the water out of there, and you'll be ready to mix your meat and make up your loaf. Now, one thing I wanted to let you know, we did add a chopped up avocado, a full, probably a small size avocado to this, just to get some richness going with this. And you're going to stir this around. And then once you get this stirred around good, the avocado, we're going to let that sit and cool off because we need to add that to the plant-based meat. Okay? So after we get that mixed around in there really good, then we're going to let this sit aside and cool off because we need to add this to our meat mixture, okay? Okay, I normally use about a half a cup of pecans, but lo and behold, I didn't have many pecans as I thought in that bag. So I'm going to use the walnuts to compensate for it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these up as small as you can get them to be able to add these into the meat, okay? I'll cut them up as small as you can get them. You can even use cashews. I just opted to use the walnuts because a little bit less calories. But I prefer the pecans. The flavor is what we're looking for. But just wanted to make sure I have enough of the nuts in it because this is a recipe similar to what my great-grandmother used to make, and she called it nut meat. So we're using some modern day items, kind of upgraded it with some different things, but we're hoping that we're going to get that taste that my great-grandma used to have in her nut meat, okay? And she didn't make it without the nuts, so I felt like that was going to be a critical part. But we'll see with using the walnuts, did that change it any, or that should be okay. I think it's going to be just fine. Okay. I'm just going to get those cut up as small as you can get them. And if you want to soak them in some water just to soften them up, you can do that too. Okay. Go through there and just get those as small as we can get them. Okay. Sometimes I'll even put these in the little bullet and kind of makes a paste, but as long as it gets them finely ground up, it doesn't even matter. And we're going to set this aside to put this in there. We're still waiting on that mushroom combination, green peppers and onions, to cool down. And as you can see, we've got our meat here. We've got 2 of the 5-pound regiments. I guess they're almost 5-pound regiments. And we've got those in the bowl ready for the next thing to get mixed in. And then, of course, I think I'm going to mix the nuts with our dry ingredients before we put those in. But you can even take these and break them up with your fingers. You know what I'm saying? To make sure they're not going to be hard inside of your loaf if you need to. Or even take that knife and just the same way you crush your garlic, you can even do that too. Okay? So as soon as you think that's fine enough, we'll check on the temperature of that meat and get to mixing the rest of this up. Okay, we've got our meat mixture, well, our plant-based burger here, and we're going to head and add in the mushrooms, onions, green peppers, and avocado. Okay, now we used about 3 cups of mushrooms, finely cut up, 2 cups of onions, almost a cup of green peppers. You can go ahead and do a cup of green peppers. We're using a half a cup of crushed nuts. And we're going to use equivalent to 2 eggs with the egg replacer. And then I'll tell you about our dry ingredients once I start putting them in. Let's get this in the bowl, and we're going to go ahead and sprinkle the nuts around. And as you sprinkle them in, you're still crushing them up finely, because you want them to get crushed up as finely as possible. So you don't want any hard pieces when you're chewing your meat. Okay? So just be mindful of that. But this is giving it some texture also. So, you know. But you know you've added nuts to it. So if there's a little piece of something here or there, you don't have to be alarmed. It's just the nuts that you've added. Go ahead and get the rest of that in there. Okay. And we want to get that seasoning, the Tony seasoning, no salt seasoning blend. We're going to do about, I say, there's not a salt content in this, so we're going to do at least a full teaspoon, okay? Because there's no salt content to that. Make sure any seasonings you're using don't have a salt content. We're going to use a little bit of this black pepper. I say half a teaspoon. Well, not going to use any of that one. I think we're out on that one. But we are going to use a half a teaspoon of this paprika, smoked paprika. Okay, that's your half teaspoon of that. I believe there's already garlic in that protein plant-based meat, but I am going to add just maybe a half a teaspoon or so of garlic myself. And if you can't find the black pepper, then go ahead and add half a teaspoon or so of your white pepper. Okay. Okay. Okay, and I think we're good on all our ingredients. We just need to go ahead and get that egg replacer in there, and we can start mushing this up and getting it together. Now the egg replacer, it's 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon. So let's kind of get that 1 tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of water. So we're going to do 2 egg equivalent to 2 eggs. So that'll be 2 tablespoons, and then 4 tablespoons of water. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're just going to mix that around real good. And this is going to be equivalent to our 2 eggs. Okay? So just get that mixed around real well. And we will add that in a few. Okay? If you think you might need a little bit more water, that's not going to hurt. Okay? Add that around. Because we do want it to be equivalent to the 2 eggs. Let's turn that water off. And we're just going to set this aside while we're mixing up our meat. Okay? Okay. See how that thickens up really quickly. And now we've got our meat. And as we start mixing this in, just take your hands, and you know what to do, and just keep mixing that in till you get it all mixed in really well. Okay? Just go for it. Yeah. Keep right on mixing it till you get it really blended together really well. Okay? You want to make sure getting all those things mixed up really well so we get a even taste and texture to this. Now this is sticking pretty well. So after you've mixed up your mixture for your egg, okay, I just take it in my hands, just like that, and I just spread it around. It doesn't run like an egg, so it's maybe harder to mix up. And I just keep putting some of it in my hands and just putting it around, all the way around, and keep mixing it up, okay? So we're going to keep doing that until you get all of that mixture that's equivalent to your 2 eggs in here with the rest of it, okay? And just keep on mixing it around. I also like the fact that when I saute the mushrooms and the onions to put it in here, it already starts to give it the color that it needs. Because I find when you're cooking the vegetarian meats, they don't get the right color. Take a little bit longer to get the right color, even though they're already done. Okay, you know what I mean? Because there's no meat to cook per se. But it also gives it a better color. Looks more like what your ground beef is going to look like after you've browned it. So, you know, and things, you know, when you're eating something, it's got to look, taste, and feel a certain way for you to be able to enjoy it. You know, especially for me. Now, I'm a person that doesn't really like, even when I ate eggs, I didn't like eggs like sunny side up. If the egg is moving at all, I'm like, no way. So, you know, that wasn't about the taste. That was about the look of it. So, you know, you have to be conscious that that has a bearing on how something's going to be to you also. Let's get us a pan, get this in a pan, and get ready to get this in the oven. We've got our pan, so we're going to go ahead and put just a little bit of oil on the bottom of this pan. Swish it around so we can roll our loaf over into here. And it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan, okay? So we've got this in this bowl. We're about to roll it in there because we've mixed it up. Okay, so as best we can. Okay. And we just kept patting it. See there? Just keep patting it. Okay. Keep on patting it. I'm going to have it roll out. Let's see if I can. Uh-oh, that was really good. We actually got it to form and be able to actually hold on to it and lift it down into the pan. So that was really good. Okay. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Okay. And you can just do a little shaping after you've put it in there. But this right here is pretty much our loaf. I think we did a really good job of getting that bound together. Looks really good. And we're going to go ahead, put this in the oven. Now, don't waste any of this. Any of this you can get out of there. Go ahead and put that on there and include that. And we're going to go ahead and get this in the oven. We're going to set our oven at 350. We want to cook it kind of slow so that the inside gets cooked as well as the outside. Okay, we got this here. We're just going to go ahead and pop this in the oven. And we'll be back to check on it. Okay. Ooh, my goodness. Ooh, that is beautiful. Okay. Gonna let that cool down around and see if we can cut on it. All right. That right there is done. And that is just beautiful. Now let's get a taste of this. And that'll really be the test. Okay. Take a little taste of that right there. Oh my goodness. That is wonderful. Go ahead and try that try that out. Oh, if somebody didn't tell you, you'd never know. Have a great day.